Evening, everybody. Right, so yesterday afternoon I filmed another joint review with Mark Kaufmann of WhiskyWhistle, and I did exactly the same thing as I did with Mike Little, nearly called him Mark then, with Mike Little as I did the other day, which worked really well and proved to be quite a success technologically wise. But unfortunately, when I did the same thing yesterday with Mark, when it uploaded to YouTube, I discovered that instead of flicking between the two cameras, it just decided to do my Dram A logo from my laptop, which wasn't recording anything because I'd switched the camera bit off of it. And all that I could see was Mark in one box and me in another, down in the bottom corner, very, very small indeed. So you can hear us, but I've had to use a bit of editing software to zoom into that little bit of the corner to basically give you something to look at, which isn't a lot. It's very blocky. So I do apologise for the video quality in this. There's a 9-hour time difference, so it's going to be very difficult for us to get together again to re-record it. So it's watchable. You can sort of see us, and the sound quality is fine. And to be honest, it's more about what we're saying than what we look like, to be perfectly honest. So yes. Apologies again, but hopefully it'll be watchable and enjoyable enough for you, even when we do sort of digress. But yes, I do want to keep doing these joint tastings. I think I just inadvertently pressed a button somewhere that didn't use the proper cameras or whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure. If anybody's got any ideas of what I did wrong, please do let me know. So yes, enjoy. Right. Yeah, let's do this thing. So, evening, everybody. It's me, Ben Bowers, and if you watched yesterday's video, which I'm about to upload, so I'm getting confused already, you would have watched my test live stream video thing with Mortimer Mike that was a massive success. I'm sure you'll agree. So I'm going to do it again, and it is currently here in the UK 2 p.m. in the afternoon and bloody freezing. It's about 3 or 4 degrees and it's chucking it down. And where are you, Mark?
Hello, Ben. Yes, I'm over here in Seoul, South Korea, and the weather's not that much better. It's about, I think it was about 6 degrees in the afternoon. It's currently 11 p.m. and it's probably around about the same temperature now than as it is where you are.
Oh, good, right.
Maybe 3 degrees thereabouts.
That's all right then, because I was getting worried that you were going to be saying, oh, it's 20 degrees and it's balmy and absolutely wonderful, and then I would have probably had to disconnect the call in jealousy.
Oddly, sometimes it is that warm in November, but this one's been pretty cold.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had it that warm ever. We barely get that in summer, to be honest. So yeah, this blows my mind, the fact that you're in Seoul and I'm in Yorkshire, and we're about to talk about and share the same whiskey. It's just
my first virtual dram with someone, so that's pretty cool.
It's yeah, fantastic. So Glen Moray today, which obviously continues our Speyside theme. So I'll do a bit of a spiel about Glen Moray, and then we'll get on with the tasting ourselves. Great. So Glen Moray is here because I'll put the map up when I get editing it, which is on the River Lossy in the town of Elgin. It started out as a brewery, believe it or not, the West Brewery, that was set up in 1828, but it converted to a distillery in 1897. It closed down in 1910. Obviously, the turn of the century was pretty poor for whiskey distilleries. It reopened for a year, barely even made a year in 1912, and then didn't trade again until a company called MacDonald and Muir bought it in 1923. Now, they were the owners of Glenmorangie at the time. And apparently, when they bought Glen Moray, they were also offered the Aberlour distillery as well. So that could have been quite interesting if they'd have got that. It did close briefly in 1932. Now, I'd read somewhere else doing my research that it closed because of the Second World War, but obviously the Second World War wasn't in 1932. So one of those is wrong. It was then pretty much completely rebuilt in 1958, almost kind of knocked down and rebuilt from scratch. It carried on. It was becoming more successful. Glenmorangie obviously became one of the most successful single malts. And in 1996, MacDonald and Muir changed their business strategy and became Glenmorangie PLC, which made it obvious where the focus was. Glen Moray was always the sort of the younger brother of Glenmorangie. 2004,
Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, LVMH bought Glen Moray PLC. But then in 2008, a French company called La Martiniquaise bought Glen Moray from LVMH. And La Martiniquaise I've actually encountered once before when I did the Label 5 blended whiskey. Yeah, which wasn't too bad and probably has quite a chunk of Glen Moray in. Tends not to be that much older stock. They tend to focus more on younger whiskies. And the last time I had Glen Moray was way back when I was working odd bins, and I can remember it distinctly because I really didn't like it. And it was a Chardonnay cask version, which was just too whiny for me. I just couldn't, and it stuck with me. It's one of those that stuck with me because I just really didn't like the thing. So I'll be very, very interested to see how this goes, because I believe, have you got the 10 or the classic?
This one is the 10.
Right.
Glen Moray Speysider single malt Scotch whiskey, aged 10 years. This one is the Chardonnay cask.
Oh, right. I'll be interested to see what you think of it then. So I've got what I was actually donated this miniature by Mr. X. Who sent me this in amongst the hundreds that he sent me. But I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to see it, but this is actually a pretty old miniature. It's unopened, but you can see the fill level is not great. Now, the Glenfarclas I did last night with Morton and Mike wasn't much off that, and that was okay. But I did contact Glen Moray and said, how old is this miniature? You know, how much of a fair representation is it? And she turned around and went, well, I've never even seen that before in my life, so I've no idea how old it is. So
it's interesting. The label looks rather like Glen Moray's older label.
But yeah, very much so. I mean, she said it's very unusual because it says it's a single Highland malt as opposed to Speyside. It's distilled and bottled in Scotland by the Glen Moray Glenlivet distillery, and it's 70 proof, 40% volume. So this could even be 1970s.
Wow.
So a few days ago, I was thinking to myself, well, this isn't really going to be a true reflection of Glen Moray. Fortunately, a good friend called Tony Graham, who is a good friend of Mormon Mike, has some Glen Moray Classic, which is the no age statement, and posted me some at very short notice. So I have some of the Classic. So this is the no age statement version, which looks like this. And you are looking at about 20 to 25 quid, and Tesco's in the UK supermarket are selling this at £18 a bottle. So the Classic is very much, the cheap end of single malt Scotch. The 10-year-olds, I tell you what, is there anything that you think I've missed on my history or anything about it? Because there's probably loads of stuff.
No, I don't think so. The only thing that I've come to understand is that this has been phased out from the collection. They're no longer going to be going forward with the Chardonnay cask.
Right.
And I think, as you mentioned, the Classic has sort of taken over that basic bottle position.
Yeah.
And then I think you've probably seen that they've also put out a bunch of cask finishes.
Yep.
So I thought, oh, here's the Chardonnay cask finish. So that's the bottle. It looks rather like the Classic, just a little bit of a different color. And so I've got the Chardonnay cask finish, and then also the former Chardonnay 10-year-old. So
right.
It's interesting that they decided to keep Chardonnay casks, which I think they're the only ones that use that to any amount of volume.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
Compared to the other distilleries. So they kept the Chardonnay, but they've taken it down to the NAS entry level. And it is entry level, as you said. This cost me, I believe it was about $32 or so over here.
Yeah.
This one wasn't actually that much more, in fact, so pretty good value. I keep meaning to pick up the 16-year-old because that's also going for practically a song, and that won't be carried forward any longer either, I think.
I've just had a look on the old interwebs, and the Whiskey Exchange over here are selling the 10-year-old Chardonnay cask for $25.95. which for a 10-year-old single malt Scotch is you're looking at £30 plus in the UK. So it's always been on the cheaper end. And yeah, like you say, I'm sure the 16-year-old is very, very good value for money indeed. Right. Well, I'm going to pour out my classic. If you're ready to go with your 10. What I'm also going to do is I'm just going to do a little bit. I'm going to open the miniature from Mr. X, and just to see what it's like, because this is a 10-year-old, the miniature that he got me. So I'd be very, very interested to see. I'm convinced it's not going to hold up, but I could be incredibly lucky. I can't even open the thing. Oh dear, that's not good. Right, I'm going to have to use teeth, I'm afraid.
Don't break your teeth.
Oh, I nearly did as well.
Oh.
Yeah. No, this one tastes of blood. Lovely. Right. So I'm just going to do just a little bit, just to see what it's like. Oh, actually, right. So I'll go with the classic first. I mean, Tony did send this, and there is no markings on it whatsoever. So I'm trusting him entirely that it has actually got that. So I'm looking at the colour. I wouldn't be surprised if colouring's been added to it, to be honest.
You're likely right.
Yeah. Does your packaging say anything about colouring added, or?
These ones, sometimes we get the bottles that are coming from Eastern Europe over here, and it will mention, but or from Denmark. But this looks like this was the UK release, so it doesn't say anything.
Okay.
On the back. Even got the pregnant lady having a little dram on the back there with the X through it.
Yeah. She's naughty. Her. She really shouldn't be doing that. So they do a peated version as well. It was only recently.
That's right.
It was about 2009 that they started doing. I think it's 40 ppm, so it's got a fair kick to it. And again,
it's actually fully peated, which is compared to other Speysider, they do the the cask finish or the partial, like 20% peated. That's actually a fully peated malt, apparently.
Yeah, so that I think that might be worth checking out if you like your peated. So I'm getting unusual notes on the nose, and I am.
That's classic.
Yeah, so this is the classic. So this is the non-age statement classic, and from what I read, they're matured in ex-bourbon casks, and then, but apart from whether it's saying Chardonnay. So as far as I'm aware, this is bourbon casks, but there is a slight dry white wine feel to the nose. There is it's not quite acrid, but there is definitely that sort of dry white wine-iness. I'm trying to think of what the word is, and it's really hard to kind of like put something to it apart from saying white wine.
Right.
And almost a little bit of markers, sort of marker pens, that sort of thing. What about you? What'd you get on yours?
Well, okay, so let me just start with this, the new version Chardonnay, because that's roughly the same age as the one that you're dealing with there.
Yeah.
And, of course, it's got a Chardonnay finish, so there's definitely lots of wine character. You can really smell that it's young.
Yeah.
But it's actually a nice young spirit as far as youthful whiskey goes. I've recently had quite a few very young whiskeys, and this one's pretty nice. I could get right into it off the bat.
It's quite mellow for something so young, because certainly this is probably 6 to 8 year old, something like that, and it's not massively spirity, back of the nose, raw and rough. There is on this. There is a definite sort of like a marker pen, not quite nail varnish, but it's just there. But it sort of works. It's not off-putting and it's not unpleasant. Maybe because I sniffed marker pens when I was a kid, but it's actually it works quite well. It's a little bit unusual to start with, but when you get your head around it and go, actually, this is what the characteristics are, it's actually very pleasant. And like you say, for something so young, it's pretty well balanced.
Yeah, and I can get that sort of felt marker sort of scent. If I really stick my nose in and give it a deep whiff.
Yeah. I'm definitely, yeah, it's growing on me a lot more, this, because my initial sniff was, whoa, this doesn't smell right at all. But now actually I'm quite enjoying it.
Yeah, there's quite a background of fruit there that's holding it, where like you're really carrying the nose.
Yeah, I'm getting bananas on the nose. Sort of bananas and raisins.
Mm.
Oh, I tell you what, that tastes good. The bananas and the fruit carry on the palate, and it's very, very soft. There's a nice light freshness to it as well. And again, for something so young, there's not really a raw edge about it. Very, very easy to drink. I think some people might think it's a little bit thin, but I think that's just because it's such a young whiskey. But that's surprised me. That really has.
Mm. The Chardonnay cask finish, it's a little bit more lemony. So more like a lemon meringue pie kind of a feel. Still very sweet, and yet not. If there's any banana there, then it's banana that's so ripe that it's actually gone a bit sour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's a good call. I get the pie element as well. I get the meringue and the pastry as well.
Yeah,
there's definitely that kind of biscuitiness to it. I tell you what, for £18, that is fantastic value for money. That really is very, very good indeed.
I totally agree. I had the chance to try all of those, the classic, the peated, the Chardonnay, the port, and I was quite impressed with all of them.
So is there a particular favorite?
Honest pricing, and though young, still quite very, very drinkable, as I hear a lot from people from the UK saying very Moorish in flavor.
Absolutely. So having had them all, was there a particular favorite that you'd probably go back to out of the 4 or 5 that you had?
I think I would definitely consider getting the peated cask, or
right.
Sorry, the peated, not the cask. It's not a peated cask. The peated malt.
Yeah.
I would try the peated Glen Moray. I like the Chardonnay. The port actually is also quite nice, comparable to a few other famous port finished whiskeys, such as the Glenmorangie, Quinta Ruban.
Mm-hmm.
There's the similarity there. Even the color is actually slightly similar. So I did. There's one that I couldn't try though. Which one was that? I guess that was the sherry. I couldn't try the sherry cask finish.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about that one, but the rest of the range is quite nice, and I think it's a good introduction for people. That gives you the basic bourbon cask, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Get these wine finishes, and then a peated to round it out. You know.
Yeah, and I think actually with the value for money that you get, it's probably quite a good range. If you've got some friends and you wanted to club together and maybe buy a bottle of each and do a tasting amongst some friends, it's not actually going to cost you that much. Right. To do this is what a sherry cask tastes like, this is what port cask, this is what Chardonnay, this is a peated version of all the same distillery, which is very, very interesting to do, because you've got that core element still the same, and then you can see where each version takes you.
Absolutely.
And it probably wouldn't cost you that much between a group of friends. So I'm very
23 ounces or so.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're talking, a good 10-20 people could probably have. I think they've got five of that core range now.
Yeah.
So the 5 bottles can definitely make a good night for 10 to 20 people.
Absolutely. I am very, very pleasantly surprised with this, and I think it's more because not that I was going in with a preconception, but because I've got this memory of the very old style Chardonnay cask, and I think this was probably about 10 to 15 years ago, and it just to me tasted more wine than whiskey. But I'd be more than happy to go back and try the others, because, and I think the danger is a lot of people will look at this and go, oh, £20 a bottle, oh, it's got to be absolutely rubbish. Your whiskey snobs are going to go, well, it can't be any good for that price.
Right.
But to pick this up in Tesco's for £18, I don't think you can go any wrong. I can see how some people would think it's a little bit too light. The finish isn't massive, but it's a no age statement. So what more are you going to get?
Right. And aside from that slight little bit of something on the nose, that felt tip marker kind of smell that's there briefly, I don't think anybody can really say that they don't like it. They may just say it's not exactly their cup of tea, and that's how whiskey is. Not everybody likes every single style. Yeah. Now, what about that classic? Have you given that a taste yet?
Right. So let's see what this old version. So this is a 10-year-old. So I'll put the bottle back up again of that label. And actually, yeah, as soon as you said that, it's like the old Glen Moray. It very, very much is that. So yes, it's a little bit raw on the nose. So it does suggest to me it's turned slightly. And it's been sat in the glass for about, while we've been talking for 5 minutes. There is a bit.
Give it a whiff to see.
Yeah, there's a bit more of a pencil shavings element to this. I think it's definitely past its best. There is a nice richness to it. There's just a little bit too much of a dominant oakiness, and it's a very raw oakiness as well. It's not particularly well balanced. It's almost like it's been sat in cask too long. There was a lot of evaporation out of that, and there is a silky.
You deserve a pat on the back for trying it.
Well, I mean, it's always interesting to see, and like I say, the Glenfarclas yesterday, I think, was just turning slightly, but still held its own. It was still a fantastic whiskey. I think you could probably open this and drink it and not really, looking at how old it is, I think somebody else might just pick it up and go, oh, it tastes okay, I'll drink the rest of it.
Right.
But I think it's suffering because of how long it's been sat on a shelf and how much it's lost. But there are elements in there that I can see, but it's a kind of malty, dark fruitiness to it. So it suggests that it was a good whiskey. But the classic, I'd much rather have than this, definitely.
Now I've got the 10-year-old, the Chardonnay cask matured here now. And it's definitely much more mature in spirit. I don't really smell that youthful kind of punch on the nose at all. And as you mentioned, the Chardonnay cask definitely has a wine essence to it. But there's also a lot of fresh fruit going on. Something like peeled grapes.
Oh yeah,
is interesting. And wine gums when I taste it.
Yeah, well, that's always a good thing because wine gums are amazing.
And a very fresh finish to it as well. And if you put a bit of water, just a dash, only a drop or two, you let it sit for a while, you really get some kind of a buttery fruit cake, like a heavy butter fruit cake, like a short cake that someone might make for a weekend brunch.
Yeah.
Almost peachy, but still some butter, and you can sort of taste that cooked cake.
Yeah.
Sort of a
almost like a cake batter.
Right.
Yeah.
And quite nice with just a dash of water. I think price-wise, the Chardonnay cask here was pretty good value. For something a little bit more mature, that's also quite nice, and not much more. I think it was maybe $5 or $10 more for the 10-year-old versus the Chardonnay cask finish. Anyway,
excellent. Right, no, that's great.
I really like these.
Yeah, I am a big fan now. That has really sold me. I'll admit I didn't have much of an impression of them. I kind of dismissed them because of my history with it, and I think the price point as well, in my sort of previous snobby ways of kind of like, well, I'd rather spend that little bit extra. But
you mentioned the French owners whose name I can't pronounce very well.
La Martiniquez.
La Martiniquez. So I think they're doing a better job with the brand, with the distillery, than the previous owners did.
Yes, I think that's very much the case. But the impression I get is that when they were with Glenmorangie was their brand, and Glen Moray was very much in the background. Well, we've got it, we'll release some, but we're not really going to take much care and attention over it. So yes, that's very much the case now. And I think that's when I was encountering it, was when it was previously playing second fiddle to Glenmorangie. Whereas now it's up there, and as a value whiskey, you know, as a right, we're going to do a lower price point, and we're going to do younger whiskies, but we're going to make them good quality. Yeah. I think it's an absolute winner. I've had some people come up to me and say, you know, you're doing whiskies and I want to buy a present for my partner, and what would you do for about 20 quid? And that absolutely fits the bill. I think that's perfect.
At that price point, I think that's the best option. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
And probably could even be put into the next price bracket and hold its own.
Yes, actually, yeah. They could probably, I mean, as long as they're not watching, but they could probably get away with putting a few pounds on the price, and people would still be happy with it. You know, at 25 for the classic, I'd still say that's good value for money.
Yeah.
So no, as long as they're not watching and get any funny ideas, and if they do, it's all your fault.
Now, Ben, can I ask you something about on camera of a slightly personal note?
Go for it. Yeah.
How is your baby?
My baby is very well, thank you. He's still not sleeping through the night, but he's doing some chunks. He'll be 6 weeks old on Wednesday.
Wow.
So it's still early days anyway, but yes, he's doing very well. I'll be honest, the other two girls are the ones causing the trouble. He's absolutely fine, but the two girls are being an absolute nightmare. But you know, we knew that was going to happen anyway.
That you have 3 and I have 3 too.
Oh yeah, What have you got? We've had this not conversation, but we've messaged each other. What have you got?
So I've got a 4.5-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and then a 10-month-old. All daughters, all girls.
Oh dear. Oh God. I'll be honest. And I was telling myself it wasn't going to be the case, but when we saw that scan and she turned around and said it's a boy, I was pretty relieved. Because I didn't think I could handle 3 girls. So yes, you, sir, are a very, very brave man.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure. I hoped for a blue bundle of joy.
Yeah.
But I got another pink one. I rolled with it, and you know, I'm really happy. She's the little one. Her name is May. She's just a delight. She's probably the loveliest of the 3 babies in terms of her character. And her facial expressions, just cute as the button. Anyway.
Yeah, all these parents that say, "Oh yes, you don't have favourites," they're talking out their backside. They really are, because you absolutely do. It might change from time to time, but there's definite favourites.
Anyway, I think we're digressing a little too far.
No, I should leave you to it because it's late at where you are, and I'd much rather have done this than. I think at one point you were offering to do a tasting at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was not going to let you have that.
I really appreciate it.
Morally, I just could not let you do that. But Mark, thank you very much for
taking away from your work.
Yes, well, that's fine. That's not a problem. As long as my boss isn't watching, it'll be all right. But Mark, thank you very much for taking the time.
It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, it's. I'm hoping that yes, I can do this a little bit more often. So. If I am
excited for your last year into the home stretch now, I think.
Very much so. Yeah, only 63 to go now, I think. And I am thinking about doing the last 3, maybe live streaming them as well at the same time. So I hope you'll be able to join in there. But yes,
Okay.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So we'll probably hang on just to let it.
Dram A day, and don't forget to send a pound here, $1 there. Give that to the Children's Heart Surgery Fund. Isn't that right?
That's the one. Yep. Just Giving page and that lot are all on the details. And if you're not watching, if you've not subscribed to Whiskey Whistle, which I reckon about 99% of the people that are watching my channel already came from you anyway. But if you're not watching Mark's videos, you really should subscribe, because he is. I tell you, out of all the videos that I watch, you are definitely the most relaxing as well. It really is a pleasure putting yours on and just kind of like, he loves what he's doing. None of this rock music nonsense and all that lot. Just nice and chilled out. And yep, Mark's got a nice dram. Right, I'm going to chill out with him. Okay, Mark. Thank you very much. Everybody else, see you at the next one. Cheers.
Goodbye.
Right, and we'll press stop broadcast.